Hi there, Heidi MacDonald of the Beat, Comics Beat, and I am sitting here with the man at the middle of some of the greatest stories in comics. He has been there for more history and made more history than you might know because it's not that known, and now you're going to start learning about it. I am here with the one and the only Dave Elliott. Dave?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Heidi.
Well, Dave is a...
Fellow lifer.
That's true.
We're fellow lifers.
We probably met 40 years ago at Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It goes back that far. And in those 40 years, you have done so many things. So we are doing this, this is our introduction. Dave and I are going to be doing a series of conversations. We're aiming for like 6 to 8 episodes, if we could squeeze it all in. And we want to shout out to our partner, Almega at
Comic Crusaders.
Who is also sponsoring this. And we're here at WonderCon. You're here with an exciting new project, which we're going to talk about. Modville, finally, Ridley Scott comes to comics, so we're going to be talking about that. But for those of you, yes, he's got the brandings, but for those of you watching this, listening to this, who don't know, Dave, can you tell us what you do in comics?
Everything, really. It's not even just comics, because, we were talking beforehand, about Radical. And so at Radical, I was doing all the, not just, you've got editors' hats on, you've got, distribution hats on, you've got production hats on. I was doing film development, script development, IP development.
Well, I just went on your LinkedIn page, and we're not gonna cover this all, but going back from, let's see, here's what you have on your LinkedIn page. Quality Comics, Marvel Comics as an inker, you have some artistic background, Deadline Magazine, John Brown Publishing, Tundra Publishing. If you know your comics history, you know Tundra Publishing is gonna be a very juicy episode. Black Ball Comics, Brigade Pictures, we're only up to the 90s, Penthouse, High List Publishing, some of these even I don't remember, Herschel Toys, okay, Thrill House Comics, Radical Publishing, that's another very juicy episode for sure, Benaroya, okay, I think we talked about that, we're into the 21st century, Deviant Art, some really fun stuff he did with them, Zucker Press, I'm still going. Atomica, right? Okay.
Well, it's been the constant. It's
yes,
always
it's
been
a constant. And now your latest and greatest, Mechanical Cake with Modville. And so, yes, so Dave has done it all. You've seen it all. You've hired everyone. You've worked with everyone.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, Dave, when are you going to write a book? And he said, Heidi, let's do a podcast instead. So anyway.
Yeah, no one reads anymore, do they? They can hear us talk about it.
So, okay, so this is just an introduction to Dave Elliott. So we're just going to get a few of the little, who's Dave Elliott elements down here. But I do see, inker. So did you get into comics wanting to be an artist? I mean, what was the first thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, look, when I was a kid, I always loved drawing. I used to make extra pocket money for drawing for kids in class. It was, and I was lucky. I had an art teacher. His name was Neville Aykroyd, and he was. I must have been 13, 14, and he was totally up for encouraging me to do comics. Most teachers, you go to college and you go hey, I want to do comics, and they go, don't ever say that again. But Neville was 100%, he was oh, this is great. We'd have a conversation about Silver Surfer and stuff like that. So he was really encouraging. But yeah, no, I wanted to do comics. My first foray into the entertainment field was a good friend of mine was the son of the head of the British Board of Film Censors, Jim Furman, and. So I was at my friend's house, and he goes, "Oh, you're an artist? Are you?" Yeah. So your portfolio, a little one. Just give me if you give me something, I'll take it into the office with me. Everyone's always coming in. So I was okay. So literally 2 weeks later, he gets me a call. I get a call from Alan Parker, the film director.
Okay.
And he goes,
bricks in the wall there.
Well, that was
Yeah.
the first. I did 2 weeks internship on Pink Floyd The Wall. Unpaid, but rubbing out pencils and like tracing things, making cups of coffee. Got to meet Gerald Scarfe briefly. But yeah, so that was kind of like, so that's how I got in. Bits and pieces. I worked with Richard Williams. I did worked with him on a couple of commercials. Worked with Hallison Bachelor, which was an animation storyboard company in London.
So you were doing like storyboards or doing?
Yeah, I was doing
whatever?
bits and pieces.
Just
'Cause,
whatever
like,
they needed a
Yeah.
warm body for, right? Who knew how to do things, and got things done.
Yeah, but this is when you start getting into that sort of like, when like a company loses a job, but they don't tell you, so you're still working on it.
Right.
So Hallison Bachelor, I was actually working on a sequence for heavy metal. It was the Richard Corbin sequence, Den sequence. And so I turned up with my storyboards, and they were like, "Oh, we're not doing this anymore. We lost the job." And then you find out, like, "Oh, do I have a cure fee?" "No, we lost the job." So I was like, "Oh, crap."
So I mean, I love that you've just jumped over, like, Pink Floyd's The Wall movie and heavy metal movie. So, we've already covered two huge topics there. So,
Yeah.
I got to go back a little bit with the heavy metal movie. So you were working for an animation studio that was supposed to be working on a segment for the movie.
So big,
Yeah.
basically the movie was big.
Right.
For animation, it was
Right,
huge.
right.
So basically, so all the different segments of heavy metal would like chopped up and given out to different companies to storyboard.
Right. Got
So
it.
they would so certain people were handling certain jobs. So I was just doing one of those sequences.
So wait, got to jump in here though. Okay, how old are you at this time?
What's that, 23?
Okay.
21, 22.
So you were, a young lad,
Yeah.
making your way in the world.
Yeah.
And had you read heavy metal at this
Oh,
time?
yeah,
Heavy
no.
metal was I
I bought the first heavy metal off the stands.
Yes.
It was
So,
like,
yeah, what was the feeling when they were like, "Oh, do you want to work?" And you said you were working on a Richard Corbin segment. So,
I mean,
it
it was in heaven. Like, I had my heavy metals out. I was like, I was probably put way more work into those storyboards than was like I was supposed to.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh my God, this is fucking Richard Corbin. Like, oh my God, it's like,
Wow.
at that age, you think, oh my God, it's a heavy metal movie, and I'm working on the Richard Corbin section, and you're like, this is like absolutely amazing. It's like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess the reason why I'm just like, we're kind of doing your resume, but it's sort of those formative experiences. I mean, that had to be something that made you be like, I'm a lifer. Like Dave and I are lifers. We are lifers in comics. Nothing can stop us. We're just gonna, they're gonna carry us out on a panel border. So I mean, it's kind of like that. Maybe that feeling was just like, I'm here. This is what I love. This is what I want to do with my life.
It's funny. It's like this whole thinking about yourself as a lifer doesn't really come until much later. Like,
well, of course not. But I'm saying like that feeling that you must have had. I mean, you obviously it's animation, not comics, but still.
It was kind of like, I mean, it wasn't like I wanted to do comics, so it was kind of, it was like, but hey, I'm doing storyboards for this. And I was like, wow. And it was like, it's that moment of, am I kind of in? Like, is this what it's going to be like now? And then, of course, you have you've lost the job. You're not going to get paid. I didn't even get my storyboards back.
Welcome to the world.
Yeah, and you go like, oh, crap.
But then you want to get that high again.
Oh, yeah. It's like you want to keep doing that. And I went through phases. Like, I went through phases of you get despondent. Like, I was a farmer for a year. A friend of mine had inherited a farm when his father died, and it's not something he really particularly wanted to do, but he and his wife went up, and they were really close friends. So I was like, oh, you know what? If it makes you feel better, so you got company, I'll come up. And so it's the north of England, up near the Scottish border. I did farming for a year.
But that's also a great experience.
Oh, yeah.
Farming is one of the best things you could do just for life, right?
It was just amazing. I look back and my life is just a series of sort of experiences. Like I was a fishmonger for nearly a year.
How did you squeeze all this in with all this comic stuff too?
Well, but it's again a lot of that came in before I kind of really started full time in comics.
Right.
And it was sort of quality comics was kind of, which I kind of fell into by accident. was the first time it was like, oh, wow, I'm turning up every single day. I'm getting a monthly paycheck for being in comics.
All right, so I mean, we're going to do, this is a teaser, so we're going to do a longer episode about the early days, but let's just jump ahead a little bit to Quality Comics.
Right.
And so this was it founded by the legendary Des Skin, or what was the shape what was the condition, the situation when you came on board at Quality Comics?
Well, Quality Comics was already in existence because Des had 2 comic shops were called Quality Comics. It was kind of his brand. The comics wasn't his. He was the publisher, but he wasn't the owner of the line. There was a men's magazine in the US called High Society. And so it was a partnership between him and a gentleman from Spain called Lee Moncho. Lee was someone who in comics he licensed comics, he had printers. The Quality Comics, the reason they were so crappily colored was he had textile colorists coloring them in Spain somewhere.
Right. Of course, this is before digital coloring, so people,
it was all.
people had to do with markers or inks.
Oh
or whatever,
but it
so
was like
very, very primitive.
and it was
by
funny.
Today's standards, yes.
Yeah, it was like I remember whenever I'd see him, I would say to him, it's like, oh, I can see because you could tell I was in like the color palette would change all the time. So I'm presuming it's because the materials they're working with, these are the colors they have lying around. And he went, yeah.
So, but I mean, so Quality was the home of Marvel Man, right?
Right.
So, I mean, was that the first big hit? Were you there when Alan Moore came in and
no.
said,
So the Quality Comics aspect of it, of the 2000 AD reprint material was kind of when I came in. I came in at one of the things that Des originally wanted to talk to me about hiring me for was to be art director on Warrior at the very, very, very end. And he showed me the material. He had enough material for maybe 2 more issues, but neither of them ever came out because it had been so long a period since the last one. Because by that point, there was nothing came out in time. I think it was about 4 or 5 issues before it started missing.
All right, but they brought you on. You were what was your position at Quality Comics?
I was kind of like editor-in-chief, managing sort of art director.
And you had not had a job as an editor before this, or had you? So what were your qualifications for this, do you think?
I just knew the material.
And how old were you at this time?
No, this was about 24.
So this is not that long after the Corbin heartbreak.
Oh, yeah.
You're a 24-year-old, okay,
No, in fact, so how I actually got to know, how I met Des Skin was, I'd kind of set my own little business, so I was doing small art prints, art drawings. There was a place in London called Camden Lock, which had a sort of a little market. It's huge now, but there was a Camden Market.
Very, very famous.
So I used to have a table there, and I would sell kind of those little clip frames of little watercolor pieces and ink drawings. So I did quite well there. And then I came up with the idea of actually doing postcards and greeting cards. So I had the chain Paper Chase, was selling some of them. And then I started doing some more fantasy horror cards. So I started going around comic shops saying, would they stock them? And that's how I met Des. I went in there to see if hey, would you stock these? And he goes, yeah, I'll stock them. Hey, these are pretty good. Hey, would you like to come downstairs, have a chat? And I went down to his basement and he started showing me Quality Comics art and the Warrior stuff. And he said, have you ever thought about doing this? And I was like, yeah. He says, look, I'm working on something. I'll give you a call if something comes up.
So he just liked the cut of your jib?
Yeah. I think it was it was probably I didn't realize it at the moment, but just about he'd gone through everybody else in the industry, and I was oh, here's fresh blood who hasn't heard about me. So it's he's not going to know any of the stories about me, so I might be able to use him for a while.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to do a whole episode about quality, obviously, and deadline and the early. Just as another little teaser taster, what was your position at Tundra?
So I was the publisher, editor-in-chief
Okay, so you were
for Tundra UK.
for Tundra UK, right? Because it had the two divisions.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But,
So we were like, again,
no,
there
so,
was,
well, I'm going to set the scene a little. For those who do not know their comics history, Tundra was a company that was founded by Kevin Eastman.
yep,
In the 90s.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, just in
Teenage
case you
Mutant
know
Ninja,
that.
you know, very famous today, 40 years celebration. He had lots and lots of money, and being the idealistic young fella that he was,
Oh, yeah.
he was like, well, I'm going to do the best comic book company of all times, and that was Tundra.
He was the ultimate play it forward.
Yes, yeah, so he meant well. That
Yeah.
is one
Oh,
thing.
that's what I mean, that's what I mean.
He meant well.
Totally play it forward.
But, you know, probably the most famous was From Hell, was in Tundra. And, you know, Alan Moore came on board. And, but of course, the great lost tragedy of Big Numbers, which was by Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz, which probably would have been just one of the greatest, sorry, you know, we're here live, things happen. One of the greatest comics of all time, but you know, we will get into the tragedy and the weirdness of all that. But yeah, and just you know, just one of the most famous and baffling stories in comics history is Tundra. So,
Yeah.
but it started well, right?
Yeah, no, it started well, and it was funny. It was, I was working for John Brown Publishing in the UK at the time, and we were launching a magazine called Blast, and you know, the owner of the company, John Brown, was like wanting to spend as little amount of money as possible.
They normally do. That's quite
Yeah,
normal,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
But it was like he was like wanted to a very low budget. So I got more money for the first issue, and then like it goes like that's because the first issue, but then it went down for the rest. So it was like, okay, well, the only way I can make this work and pay any way decent rates in the UK is if I use some reprint material. And I'd found Editing Deadline, where I actually put Flaming Carrot in it, Milk and Cheese. I thought, oh, that went down really well in Deadline, so I'll pick up something like Mr. Monster.
Sure.
So I've known Michael Gilbert already by that point while he worked with me on A1. He did a few stories. So I was like, hey, can we use Mr. Monster? And he's like, sure, but you have to talk to Kevin Eastman because I've done a deal with Tundra. And that's when I started talking to Kevin Eastman. And Kevin was like, oh, Dave, yeah, it's like, man, I'm a big fan. Like, I love A1 and all this. So we start having these conversations. And then it's like, hey, you coming to San Diego? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, like, yeah. And he goes, great, because I want to talk to you about, like, would you, he then started telling me he wanted to expand Tundra to Europe. Would I head up Tundra UK? And we also handle all the foreign rights for both the companies.
Right, makes sense, sure.
Yeah, so...
Rights, rights.
Yeah.
That's what's going to come into a lot of these stories is rights.
Well,
contracts and rights.
Well, it actually proved really useful because it was then that I met David Quinn around that time, Faust, and one of the problems he'd been having is, and we discovered in Europe, was I'd see Faust everywhere. David didn't know Faust was everywhere.
Oh.
And it was just people just going like, hey, it's black and white comic. I'm just going to scan it, translate it, and sell it.
Yeah. Faust is this incredibly violent, gory horror book. It's
Yeah.
incredibly violent and gory.
Oh, yeah.
David's the most lovely
Oh,
possible person.
you meet David Quinn, and
you're just-
you cannot believe like
what a great guy he is. So
oh
nice.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you're Faust,
Yeah,
like you no.
Yeah, but it was a boundary. It's even now. It would still be like, ugh.
Oh yeah, no, I mean yeah, he did the recent collection, which is I think
Yeah.
still available
Yeah.
from all good stores.
Yeah, right. Well, let's, so Tundra started well. Obviously, we're going to get to that. You know, when we start talking about this project, I think one of the things you told me that your reason you wanted to do it was to reveal that, you know, the reasons that things fail. Well, what you know what was
Yeah,
that?
no, it
What
was,
was that?
no, we were talking, it was like, and I kind of get, like, I'm not someone who really likes, like, when something hasn't quite worked, I'm that sort of person like, oh crap, all right, what's next?
Right.
And I kind of like, I, you know, quite often people come to me and go, oh, can you give us the dirt? And I'm like, no, I don't, like, no, there was, a lot of things were done with best intents sometimes not. But I've never really sort of, it's not, because this isn't, by the way, it's not about like dishing dirt on anything.
No, this is just it's just history.
It's history,
That's right, yeah.
but I think there's so many lessons to be learned about, because a lot of like some of the companies I worked for, they failed not because of what we were doing, but because of circumstances that were outside forces and beyond our control.
Right.
And I think it's really, so it's as if you're in a business and you're starting something, hopefully that will give you some like, oh, okay, I didn't think that was something I actually needed to watch out for.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
kind of.
But I think I want to talk about your current venture, but I think also a lot of people in comics do have we tried that once and it didn't work. And that could be something they tried 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And like, maybe you could try it a little, we have phones now, you can try it now, maybe it'll work. So,
No, I mean, as we said, I mean, we're not going to go into detail to it now, but I think
Yeah.
a very specific example, which is kind of one of the things that also spurred this conversation, was you'd written a piece that had mentioned Radical. And Radical was something that should have worked. When I was there, it was working. But not everyone in the company had the same ideas of what we should be doing as I did. And, and there I would say one of the biggest failures, which is, I think, something a lot of companies do, is they think that the investment they receive, they go out and it's sometimes really tough to get investment.
Right.
And because it's so tough to get that financing, they feel they've worked really hard. So they feel that investment is actually profit because of the hard work they've done. But it's not. Now the work really starts.
That's a hard lesson, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you get that money and you're like, I did it.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
So just because you got that money doesn't mean like, oh, everyone gets company cars, company phones. You don't have to get expensive offices with expensive.
But they do, don't they? They get those expensive offices, don't they? They get that expensive letterhead.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget just when ImageComics.Extreme sent out a press, then there was no internet, so they sent out a press release. It was on two-sided paper, which in the early 90s it was the heaviest, most expensive full-color printing you could possibly do. And I thought to myself, boy, is that, the money is going to go very quickly. And in a year, it was gone. What a surprise.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars, millions.
It's really funny, having sort of been a visitor to DC Comics so often, I actually still have at home some clean, unused, the DC stationery where it was like on one side it's clean with the DC logo, but on the other side of the paper it's all the characters stacked up on each other that only ever show up if you hold it up to the light.
I know, it's very touching.
Yeah.
So let's jump forward to 2025, and your new project is a company called Mechanical Cake, and so you're wearing the T-shirt of Scott Free, and if you're a movie fan, you know this is Ridley Scott, and I mean, what can we say? The GOAT, one of the greatest, the greatest of all time. It just, I can't even. Right? So that said, everybody knows that Ridley is an artist and he has an art background, and we often, like he storyboards all his movies. He is a cartoonist. He actually is a cartoonist. And people are like, is he ever going to do comics? So this is the closest he's come, right? Tell us about this.
No, it's funny. There's like, if you go and look up the interview he did with GQ magazine, there's some video of him where he goes, like when he talks about when he was younger, he describes himself as a comic book aficionado, he storyboarded his stuff. And I think there's this great story where when he was working on Alien, they'd given him something like a budget of like 4 million, but he'd storyboarded the whole thing out, went in and showed the storyboards, and because they could visualize now what he was doing, they tripled the budget.
Wow. Yeah.
And so like the power of the visual is so important. So and this and in with his own words, it's like he goes, I don't know why I haven't done this before. So
for Modville?
No, for comics in general.
Oh, comics in general,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So tell us about Mechanical Cake and what you're doing and what Modville's all about. And,
Right.
yeah.
So my partners in Mechanical Cake, it's Jesse Negron, who's the creator of Modville, and Tom Sanders, who's our business partner, sort of contracts, money guy, stuff like that. And the beauty about the three of us is when you meet us and you have a conversation with us, you realize like, here's three completely different people who you would not have imagined. Like this is, Tom Moran, who's senior executive at Scott Free, he goes like, I can't believe that you guys actually are working together, because I would never have pinned you guys as a team. But we do, we work very effectively together. We kind of butt heads, but you need butt heads.
That is, we should bring that up as we do the series, because having somebody who you butt heads with actually makes for really, it's very important.
I think if you, I think.
In a good way, in a productive.
Oh, it is.
There's a productive way and there's a very negative, toxic way, yeah.
Yeah, I think we work really well because if you did a Venn diagram of the three of us, you'd see that there's a small overlap in what we do. So you've got three people who do very different things, and so we're not competing in the same space. We're not three people who came together to do the same thing and then realize, hey, we've got no one here who can do business, no one here who can do contracts, like no one who knows production at all.
Yeah.
So it's nice that so where butt heads is just where they overlap occasionally.
Very nice.
And I'm going like, well, I know you want to do that, Jesse, there, but I'm telling you from the comics publishing experience, we need to do that. And he goes, oh, okay, I see. It's, and then occasionally we'll bring Tom in to sort of okay, he says this, I say this, what do you think?
Right,
just so we can be fair about it.
Yeah. So Jesse created Modville.
Yes.
And so this is an ash can? It's an elevated ash can?
It's a super, so look.
Okay, tell us what we have here.
No, I've done this before I did this with Radical as well. We did, I've always felt it's really important, I don't want to just with here's 5 pieces of photocopied black and white paper, this is give you an idea, here's a press release on the back. No, it's when people look at this, they go, because everyone asks, they go can I keep this? Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Because it's important to show this is the quality we're striving for.
Right.
And the thing is with any new company, it's important to show what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Yeah, and it's the interiors are they're beautiful. Wow. Okay. So is it got is this what happened? Is this what is this? It's got a fold out.
I'll get you.
Podcast.
I'm going to get you a better quality
I
one
know
of this. That's a bad copy.
Oh, sorry. Cut that part out.
No, it's right.
Is Ridley just the guiding light of this, or is he involved? Or
so we've been doing this for a long time.
Because we're on first name.
Yeah, Rid.
Yeah. Rid.
No, we've been working on this for a while, so it's kind of, because one of the things, particularly in the early parts of it, because Ridley's super busy.
Yes.
And
he's 84 years old. He wakes up and he's like, what movie will I make today? And pretty much.
He's got it all planned out, but it's
yeah.
He's over right up until the end of the year. He's in his office, he's storyboarding the movie, which he's just about to shoot now. So he's going from one to the other,
right?
Like that, and it's what's next? And then every now and again, it's I don't have anything to do today. Oh, great. Hey, so here's what we're doing. So this is where we are so far with Modville, and you can look at it and go oh, this looks good. Yeah, maybe desaturate that a little bit, the color on there a little bit. Oh, why does this person doing this? What's maybe if we did that, and then it's cool. And then you go back the following day to sort of with some more questions, and now his mind's somewhere else. He's on another movie now.
Right. So. Well, that could be good or bad.
No.
Yeah.
So we've been working with him on 3 projects so far, and so now we're far enough along. We've had his input in enough that we're okay, right. We've, so now we're at that stage of he's gone through the first book of Modville and gone oh wow, this is amazing. Oh, this is great. So it at the beginning, and then once we've got enough, right, okay, then we've got his other executives who know him well. So it's like, do you think Ridley would like this? And they'd like go yes, or go like, not sure. I'll get it. I'll get him to take a look. Or it'd be like, no, don't do that. Or no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he's like, no, just like, this is the comic. Like, don't like listen to me too much because like I'm the film guy, but I like comics and like.
So he respects the art form.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, literally, we have been saying for years, like, I wonder if Ridley Scott would ever do comics, because as you know, you've been involved with many people who are non-cartoonists making, involved in the film world, making comics, and can have an ulterior motive, like, oh, we're just going to make a movie out of this, and really not caring about the comics, or there can be like really great projects and that have exist as a good comic, and then whatever happens from there is
I'll just say
fantastic.
going back to that Venn diagram thing. It's like because so Jesse, who's the creator of Modville, but he's more film TV centric. So when he does something like because writing for film and writing for comics is too. People think it's similar, but it's not.
Yeah.
It is so far removed.
I bet you have some good stories about that. That will we return to in a future episode.
Oh yeah. Well, just briefly. So on Modville, the way we work is Jesse writes each book as though he's writing it as an episode of a TV show, and then sends the script to me. I rewrite it as a graphic novel.
Right.
Because the thing is in screenplay writing that everyone's taught.
Right.
Don't describe things
right,
too
you're
much.
not in screenplay writing. You're supposed to not put as little description of what's happening as possible.
Because that's the director to decide.
Right.
But I'm basically the director of Modville, so I have to take that script, and then I put in all the panel descriptions. Like I have to frame each panel. It's about structuring things so that like when the turn of the page stuff, which is
Did you edit some Alan Moore scripts? Okay.
No,
because he writes like page after page.
Yeah, but he knows. No, it's page after page, and as Alan would probably tell you, it's like what he does is he knows he overwrites, but he wants you to get like you have a picture in your head. He's not asking you to draw everything in the script.
Oh, he's creating that.
He's creating a picture in your head. So if you can find a short form of that, or if you can do it in a different way, it's all about that. No, I've never I don't know anybody who's really had to sort of, maybe someone's had to say something like, oh, you can't reference that because like it's a copyright thing, but otherwise, Alan, I mean, by the time I ever spoke to Alan, it was like he was beyond that reach of like needing to sort of.
Right. He was already Alan. Alan Moore truly lives in another dimension. He does. But his mind is like Dr. Manhattan.
Well, I think like when
it's drugs actually.
Lots of them. And magic, probably.
And drugs and magic, and just genetics. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but see where that comes when. My only real interaction with Alan was going back to really go back to A1, which was so creator open and friendly. It was like, if that's what you want to put in it, that's what we'll put in it. Yeah.
Well, that's we've circled back now to so hopefully just one more. What is Modville about? Give us the little log line, the elevator pitch.
So we're in a world.
We're in a world.
Yeah, it's
in a world.
Well, we are. It's not our future in 100 years. It's a future of 100 years from now. Thanks to climate change, the sea levels have risen. So at this point, the Modville is actually the new name for New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
New Orleans, as we saw with Katrina, it's like that thing of it's always been susceptible to sea level rise. So at this point in the future, all the humans have decided this isn't a place to live.
Right.
And because we've seen this rising, so mods are these kind of android-like, they're these people that have been created to do jobs. A lot of people who are wealthy would like, oh, you know what? My mum died. I really miss her having her around. So I'm going to actually have an android that looks exactly like my mum. She's got voice
yeah.
mannerisms. She's going to talk. I'm going to have her around.
Wonderful idea that turns out to be horribly creepy.
Right.
Yeah.
But then what you have is someone, like somebody decides, oh, I've created my mum, and now it's creeping me out because I know she's not my mum, and I'm thinking this is a bad idea, and I start mistreating it, and then somehow during the stress that I'm giving that robot, that android, that mod, that it trips something in its head, and it decides it's had enough. It's basically your vacuum cleaner deciding, I don't want to vacuum floors anymore. I want to write a book, and leaves. And so you have this thing where mods are just property. They're just like, if I want to get rid of a toaster, I can just throw that in the bin. If I want to take a hammer to a mod, I can do that. So a lot of mods are going like, don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So the only safe place for them in the world is Modville. There's a law been passed by the government that says, because it's become a thing, so they realize like, okay, you can have New Orleans, that's yours.
Yeah.
But you also have, there's almost like an underground railway where there's humans that are helping mods get to safety.
Right. So this was a very long elevator ride, by the way. This
Oh
is
yeah,
like
yeah,
all
no,
the way,
oh yeah,
very
yeah.
all the way up.
But there's so much. Like, this is just the background.
Right.
Like you're going to get this as you go along.
This is just the setting. This is just
Yeah,
the right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I just want to say though, this is where you're going to go with the AI. Okay, when you keep on with the AI, this is it. This is
Yeah,
you
yeah.
watch out. Those smart toasters. It's a big. It's coming. It's
Oh
coming.
yeah.
So, well, this is fantastic. You'll be watching this. We're at WonderCon. You have an incredible booth. Like who did the booth design?
That was Jesse.
Jesse, and his background is production design, right?
Well, he just loves it.
Yeah.
If you go to our YouTube channel, which is Mechanical Geek TV, he did a Modville fan film.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
we will include
it's-
that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, the booth is. Yeah, well, you'll have watched this when it's long over. But yeah, the booth is absolutely spectacular. Right?
Yeah.
We can only if you're coming to Comic-Con, I can't wait to see what you guys are doing because whatever you do, I can see it's going to look really great.
Well, we've got twice the space at San Diego.
Oh, okay.
So we'll probably have the booth, but we're also, our second book that's coming out is Hyde, which is a sequel to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Okay.
And so probably one side of the booth will be Modville and the other side will be Hyde.
Okay.
San Diego Comic-Con have asked us if they can have the Modville booth for the museum already. So I think between now and San Diego, it might well end up residing there.
Okay, well, it's worth seeing. And Dave, obviously, this is just the beginning. We're going to have lots more stories, lots more,
dirt.
Well, the dirt, here's what to do, here's what not to do. You've done it both. So, Dave, thank you so much for stopping by today. There we go. And, we'll continue on with the stories, life and times of Mr. Dave Elliott.